Yo, welcome to Trippy Commentaries in our 2014 MLB trade deadline recap. Last year, not a whole lot happened. This year was crazy, and the Tampa Bay Rays' famous former Cy Young award-winning ace has been traded to the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers were already one of the heavy favorites to win it all this year. They just got a whole lot better. I'm RJ, joined by K-Mac. Kyle, this was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. Obviously, us being Rays fan, we're not too happy right now, but we'll get into that a little later. And definitely, this year came right down to the wire, as we've seen a couple of years before. But I felt this one really came down to the wire. I mean, earlier in the day, we didn't really hear much that was going on, and then all of a sudden, it just started. You had the big Lester trade that went through, and then from there, it just seemed like teams just started throwing in people and stuff started going crazy, and it came right down to like pretty much 350, about 10 minutes left in the trade deadline, before the trade deadline, and there's a big three-way trade with David Price.
Yeah, there were so many trades that were going down right at the last second that we didn't hear the details of most of them until like 5, sometimes even 6 o'clock with some of these. Just because they were trying to just roll them all out and make sure they had everything correct. We'll go ahead and break them down pretty much from the biggest trades, kind of going through all of the ones that went down here on the MLB trade deadline. We'll start off with the big daddy here. We've already talked about it. The Rays will be receiving second baseman, also shortstop, Nick Franklin. He's a prospect from the Mariners. They're going to get left-handed pitcher Drew Smyly from the Tigers. He's a guy who's been around for a couple years, still a young buck, pretty impressive. And they're also going to get a really young player, a shortstop prospect from Detroit, Willie Adames, I believe it is pronounced. Yes. David Price, the Cy Young winner from the Rays, will now be pitching for the Detroit Tigers. That's, of course, huge to add him into that rotation. That's ridiculous. Yeah. The Mariners are going to get Austin Jackson. Not really playing too good this year, but we've seen him be a star in the past. The Mariners do need him. Kyle, I guess we'll start off from the Rays' perspective. What do you think about who they got?
Well, from a Rays fan perspective, a little disappointed. I mean, we can go in here and debate the whole time about if this is a good trade or not. I don't really want to dive into that. I mean, I'm a little disappointed. I mean, we're giving up a Cy Young winner that I feel the Rays, only 4 games out right now, have a chance to easily win this division. We've shown that we can compete with both the Toronto Blue Jays and the Baltimore Orioles. We know we can beat the Yankees. And I felt with David Price, that's our guy that we could lead us through that, could have lead us through the playoffs. And then, in the offseason, let's trade him off. Hey, this guy might even win another Cy Young award this year. It's very possible. He had a little shaky start, but from that, it wasn't even that shaky. He's been killing it. I mean, he's been destroying it lately. Some speculation went on about the last game that he pitched against the Brewers, where he only gave up 3 runs. He pitched well enough to win a game. And some people are speculating that had something to do with it. I don't think that. I think the Rays may have panicked a little here from the Jon Lester trade.
Yeah, I actually am pretty optimistic going forward. Like you, Kyle, I agree that they should have gotten a lot more. But at the same time, all is not lost here. Drew Smyly is going to be a decent replacement. There's no way he's going to be David Price Cy Young level. I mean, that's a joke to even assume anything close to that. But he will be good, especially in the Rays Stadium, the big dome. It's pretty easy to pitch there. It's hard to hit home runs in that the Thunderdome, Tropicana Field there. So that will make his stats look even better. He's a guy who definitely throws strikeouts, which is what the other Rays pitchers like to do. Alex Cobb's back getting on that track, as well as Chris Archer and Odorizzi. Jake Odorizzi's getting a ton of strikeouts, so he'll fit in nicely. Nick Franklin's a guy that we've heard of for a while. It's hard to really judge these prospects because so many times you hear these guys killing it in the minors. They come up and don't look too good. Nick Franklin hasn't looked that great in the minors, so it's up in the air right now. I was high on him, but you can really never tell how these guys are going to do. I mean, Mike Trout, when he first came up, he was not good at all. The next year they brought him up, and we all know what happened. He set the world on fire, and he's now probably the best player in the league. So Nick Franklin can still be good. We'll see what happens there. As far as the young buck, the shortstop, who's only 19 years old, it's going to be a long time before he gets up into the majors. And the problem with that, Kyle, is shortstops, they're not going to have a ton of power. So they pretty much have to be good at shortstop because they're not really going to be able to contribute at any other positions where you have to have a little bit more power and a little bit more offensive skill. So he's definitely going to have to develop at that position. But, it is what it is. I think Drew Smyly will be good and he'll be under control for a while. One thing we do got to mention, Kyle, before we get off the Rays, is that they're going to have a lot of free money here. They trade David Price. That's going to free up some money. So for you Rays fans, just keep in mind they'll probably will spend a lot of that money to get more players in. Kyle, what would you expect them to use that money on? Probably another offensive player?
Well, let's hold on a second, because will they? Because the Rays already in the offseason this past season had already made it public that they were a little uncomfortable with the payroll for last year. They thought it was a little too high from what they wanted. We've seen in the past where we thought the Rays were going to make a move to get somebody big, and they really don't. They've kind of let us down a few times when we thought there were some available players that we could easily pick up. They will have available money, but the question is, are they going to spend it? I'd like to see them go after a decent hitter. Obviously, the Rays have never had a solid DH hitter. I'd like to see them do something with that. But going back to Nick Franklin, I feel this is a guy that in 2013, he played in 102 games with Seattle. He showed some power. His batting average wasn't that good, but that's pretty good for your first taste of the MLB. What sucks for Nick Franklin is all of a sudden the Mariners get Robinson Cano, and it's like, well, this guy was getting ready to have his second season in the league to be able to establish himself and have a second go at it. And all of a sudden, you're back to minor leagues because Robinson Cano's here. And guess what? We just locked him up. So you're kind of screwed here on the Mariners right now unless you play a different position. So I feel some of his struggles he's had this year in the minor leagues could possibly come from that. I'm hoping that. I don't think Franklin's going to make an impact on the team this year. He's obviously something for the future, but Drew Smyly, there's enough. I like what I see from this kid. Got a good size, 6'3", 190 pounds, lefty. He's kind of regressed a little bit this year. Sophomore slump, or actually it's his third year. Actually, his first year he only pitched he didn't pitch in a whole lot of games. But this year here, he's kind of regressed a little bit. But who knows? Maybe change the scenery. Jim Hickey down in Tampa obviously knows how to turn guys that you thought were not that good anymore into superstars, as we've seen with Fernando Rodney, and a few other pitchers that the Rays have picked up. So maybe Jim Hickey can work with Smyly and get this guy to be a solid starter for the Rays, and maybe the Rays would have a complete rotation at that time. Even though they don't have David Price, they will still have a complete 5 starters who can all produce and be very productive.
Yeah, for sure. From the Detroit Tiger angle, Kyle, there's not really much to say other than, they got 3 great pitchers now. We'll see if Max Scherzer can kind of get on a roll here to make it 3 basically untouchable pitchers, especially if they can get going in the postseason. That'll be a huge weapon. They'll just be hard to touch. That's all we can really say.
Yeah, 3 Cy Young Award winners. I can't think of the last team that had that as in their starting rotation. Oh, and they have a guy named Anibal Sanchez who is pretty good too. So, and they have the Miguel Cabrera. Their offense is ridiculous. This puts the Tigers over. They are probably going to be our team that's going to be represented from the AL.
Yeah, before we get to the A's, that's the one advantage that I think the Tigers are really going to have. They have the pitching now where they got David Price. We're about to talk about Jon Lester going to the A's. But their offense is stacked. They got Victor Martinez doing well. Of course, they picked up the new second baseman there, Kinsler, in the offseason, so that's a huge addition for him. And Torrey Hunter, at 39 years old, is all of a sudden tearing it up. He's playing as good as anybody. So watch out for them.
Guys like J.D. Martinez, who's been having his best season of his career so far. So everything's clicking for him offensively. Now you just throw David Price into this already really good rotation. Come on. It's almost unfair at this point,
We'll see, because this team right here, the Oakland Athletics, is going to have something to say about it. One more time, we'll mention Austin Jackson going to the Mariners. Not having the best season. He's been pretty average as of late, so we'll see if he can get hot for them, because they certainly need him. The Red Sox have acquired Yoenis Cespedes. This is a huge trade. I don't really get why the A's are trading him because they don't have a lot of offensive help here. I know they do have guys like Josh Donaldson, Brandon Moss who have the power, so it's really not like they're giving a lot away as far as power is concerned, and they are the #1 offense right now, but in the postseason, I feel like you need those big-name guys. Pretty crazy for them to trade him, but at the same time, for as good as Yoenis Cespedes, hard name to say, is offensively, Jon Lester is an even better pitcher. They also pick up Johnny Gomes. What do you think about Jon Lester going to the A's?
To me, I felt this was the best trade of the day. I think both teams kind of came out really good here because obviously the Red Sox are getting Cespedes, who lately has been on a tear. I mean, this guy's scary when he's in the box. He's going to be playing in Boston with the Green Monster. He's going to be putting darting balls off that all day long. It's going to be too easy for him. I think the Red Sox scored big here because I don't think Jon Lester was coming back to the Red Sox next year anyways. I don't think they were willing to pay him enough. He declined an extension earlier in the year because he felt it was a lowball offer. And, obviously the Oakland A's are solidifying their pitching staff. That's what they're trying to do. I mean, Jon Lester's got that playoff experience. He's got the World Series experience. He's won 2 of them already. And Jon Lester's one of those guys who steps up in big games. When you need a big game, Jon Lester is that guy. Very dominant left-handed pitcher. And, wow, the AL just now, you pretty much have 2 heavy favorites now. You got the Tigers and the Oakland A's. It's going to be crazy when they play each other.
Yeah, so the Athletics, who also traded for Jason Hamill and Jeff Samardzija a little bit earlier, we're looking at Samardzija right now, they are stacked. They already had Sonny Gray. Scott Kazmir is coming back with a vengeance this year. So that's a huge addition. They're pretty much saying that pitching is more important than offense because they traded one of their big offensive pieces for pitching. We'll see if it pays off for them because that pitching is going to probably have to hold down the fierce Detroit Tiger offense for them to win it all. I still like the Tigers pitching better.
Yeah, and RJ, another thing is you got to look at, we know how the Oakland organization, how it is. They definitely play numbers. I mean, right now they're way ahead in runs scored right now. They're the clear #1, team in runs scored. I think they're looking at that, and they've probably looked at the numbers and seen how much Cespedes has contributed to that, and if they lost a little bit of that, would they still be doing good? Because, it comes down to the playoffs, man. You got to have legit starting pitchers. And that's, as a Rays fan, I'm not happy we don't have Price because I feel Price is that guy who could start twice in a series and definitely probably give you a win because he's going to shut it down.
Of course.
That's what the Oakland A's have now with Jon Lester because he's proven. He's already done it before.
No doubt. All right, let's move on, K-Mac. We have Joe Kelly and Alan Craig going to the Red Sox. Of course, they had to give up John Lackey as well as minor league pitcher Corey Luttrell to get those players. I feel like people have been a little bit too high on Joe Kelly. He's not that great of a pitcher, average at best. Put him in the AL East. I think he's probably, going to be a downgrade here for them. I don't think he's going to help out too much next year. I'm assuming they're probably going to pick up a pitcher such as Max Scherzer. They're going to have to after getting rid of John Lackey and Jon Lester. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
And Dubron.
Yeah.
And Dubron.
Yep.
They just gave up 3 of their starting pitchers.
They're definitely going to have to spend some money, but unfortunately for the Rays here, who are looking at their logo, Boston can do that. Look for them to pick up Scherzer, some other guys who are available. Now, as far as John Lackey going to the Cardinals, that definitely will help them out. He's definitely a veteran presence who's going to help that team going down the stretch, and he's certainly an upgrade over Joe Kelly. The Braves are going to receive, they got James Russell and Emilio Bonifacio for a young catcher, Victor Caratini, so that should help the Braves. I think Bonifacio should come through for them. The Marlins are going to receive Jared Cozart, Enrique Hernandez, a shortstop, and Francis Martes, a right-handed pitcher. Definitely good to mention Jared Cozart. I think he's going to be very good in that huge stadium. So good job by the Marlins. Hopefully they can get some wins. They're still under 500, but they feel like they're still in the playoff picture, which they are. The Astros are going to get highly touted prospects, Jake Marisnick and Austin Waits, as well as a third base prospect. So that's interesting for the Astros to get 2 highly touted prospects they're definitely trying to build something. But once again, they're trading their young pitchers. I know they feel like they have a bunch. They just need so much right now, that's for sure.
Yeah, Houston, I mean, they pretty much came out and told their fans this is exactly what's going to happen. They told their fans, the season's going to go this way. We're going to get rid of players, and we're going to build up, and we're going to try to build something that's going to last us over the next 10 years instead of, winning one season and then having to dump the next season. So big pickup for the Astros to get those prospects.
The Yankees receive Martin Prado, a player who we're looking at right now. We've seen him be very good in the past, but as of late, really hasn't been too good. Diamondbacks are going nowhere this year. They traded Martin Prado for prospect Peter O'Brien, who's a catcher, as well as a player to be named later. That's a pretty good pickup for the Yankees getting Martin Prado. They also picked up Stephen Drew in a trade. They just gave up Kelly Johnson, who's useless anyways. That's a odd trade between the Yankees and Red Sox. Something you don't see too often. We'll see if that can bolster the Yankees' offense. Of course, at shortstop, they still have Derek Jeter. He's not going to go anywhere, so we'll see if those other two players can fit in nicely there. The Nationals are going to receive Asdrubal Cabrera in return for Zach Walters, who go to the Indians. He's an infielder. Definitely got to like that for the Nationals. We'll see if they can finish strong. They're going to put Asdrubal Cabrera probably at second base, where he really hasn't played too much, so that's a little bit interesting. The Orioles receive Andrew Miller. This is a big trade because Andrew Miller is a great left-handed pitching relief pitcher here. That's a big pickup for the Orioles. They gave away their prospect left-handed pitcher Eduardo Rodriguez to the Red Sox. So that's just the Red Sox stacking up more with the prospects. They're also going to have the money available, so that puts them in good position. The Mariners get Kristen Norfia. The Padres get outfielder Abraham Almonte and Stephen Colsheen. Really can't say too much about that except Kristen Orfia will be a very good bench player for the Mariners. He's a player we like a lot.
Yeah, good fill-in guy, good DH guy, or pinch hitter guy. That's about it.
We thought that was the outfielder that they were going to be using a lot, and then we noticed they picked up Austin Jackson later on, so that's a much better player to fill in that hole. The Brewers get defensive outfielder Gerardo Parra, a guy we've seen pretty good in the past, but he's been down as of late. The Diamondbacks get a couple prospects, outfielder Mitch Haniger, left-handed pitcher Anthony Banda. Here's a trade that I thought worked out really nice for the Twins, Kyle. They got Tommy Milone, a left-handed pitcher. All they had to do was give up Sam Fuld, who they gave up, they pretty much got for nothing. Tommy Malone's a player who's under control. He's had some injury issues, but I think he's going to be good in that stadium. But that said, Sam Fuld going to the A's, I think Sam Fuld's going to be a great player to come in certain situations, such as when they need a stolen base or a defensive replacement.
That's exactly what it'll be.
And then the last trade, the A's. Or I'm sorry, actually, it's not. It's a non-trade. It's just something I wanted to mention. It's Alex Rios. He was said to be traded to the San Francisco Giants. They were nearing a trade, which I thought would have been a huge deal. The San Francisco Giants have picked up big-time players in the past that have really helped them, such as Hunter Pence. I thought Alex Rios was going to be the next guy to come in and help them for a playoff push, as I really like them in the National League right now. There's really not a ton of good teams to contend with. I know they have their huge rivals, the Dodgers, but not getting Alex Rios is a pretty big disappointment for me, and instead he's just going to stay in Texas. The Rangers are not going anywhere this year. That's a missed opportunity for the Giants, K-Mac.
Yeah, well, I felt it was funny that neither the Dodgers or the Giants made any big moves here before the trade deadline. I thought those are two definite players who were going to try to try to make some moves, and neither of them did a thing. I was really thinking Matt Kemp was probably going to be the guy to get moves for one of these pitchers. I feel the Dodgers could probably do without him, and I just don't know if the rest of the league really puts too much value in him anymore, because he's definitely had some struggles. So we've seen him kind of bounce back a little bit this year, but still not the Matt Kemp that we knew, a couple of years ago. So really interesting that those two teams really didn't do anything.
Yeah, and that's it. That's pretty much all the major trades. Man, this was one of the craziest trade deadline years I've ever seen in all of my years of watching baseball. But there's one more question I have for you, Kyle, as we sign out. Who is your favorite to win the American League after now? Now we've seen the big trades go through. Who do you have as the favorite, the Oakland Athletics, or the team that this guy's on, David Price, the Detroit Tigers? Who is your favorite right now?
Detroit Rock City, baby. Detroit all day, man. I feel their offense is, if you match them up, even on paper, well, now obviously there's a reason they play the games, but on paper, you know, the offensive lineup for the Tigers is going to, you know, outplay the Oakland A's. Even though statistically so far this year they haven't, I felt the Oakland A's have had some games where they kind of had some blowouts, so it's kind of misread stats there. But I really feel that playing against each other, that the Tigers are going to be able to produce more offensively, and obviously the pitching staff now is completely legit. Probably the most, in my opinion, the best starting rotation now in Major League Baseball. So if you believe in pitching winning you games, and then they also have great offense, I can't really say that they're going to lose many games unless they just obviously blow it on their own and just completely play it flat. And I don't know. I just, stacking up against each other, I just feel they're better than Oakland.
I agree. I mean, Oakland's got a great pitching staff, but Detroit's got the offense. They got a ton of weapons. We'll see what happens, as I think both of those teams will eventually meet up in the playoffs. It seems inevitable at this point. Thank you guys for joining us for our recap of this year's trade deadline. We are fully interactable here at Trippy Commentaries, so drop your comments. We cover all sports, and we will always give you a shout out if you have anything that you want us to do a video on. We will definitely talk about it, and hell, we could even include you if you know what you're talking about when it comes to baseball, football, any sport under the sun. We got your back here at Trippy Comms. I'm RJ for Kyle. Stay trippy.
Stay trippy, everybody.
Peace out, guys.